For Explore2, it is a Nearpod, so you're going to want to click on the link. It'll pop up in a new tab and we'll start by asking you to grab your name from Google. Once that pops up, again, you're going to grab your name from Google. Click Yes, Continue. Inheritance and Genetic Variation, Explore2. We're going to start with a couple of open-ended questions. What are traits? Where do we get our traits from? So you're going to type your response here or record your audio. Remember to pause if I am going too fast. In the area below, you're going to draw, label, and color the egg gene model your teacher demonstrates. So let me start by going over that. You will be watching me demonstrate an egg gene model, and then you will draw, label, and color it. For the beginning of this, I'm going to start with a bag. It's a normal sandwich bag, so you're going to draw your very best sandwich bag. Inside of the bag, there is an egg. I'm going to draw my egg as blue. You can draw it as whatever color you'd like. Here's my egg. This is where you will find all of an organism's genetic information. The word genetic information is information encoded in the sequences of nucleotides in an individual's DNA. What do you think the plastic bag might represent? What do you think the plastic egg might represent? If the plastic egg represents the nucleus, what is inside of a nucleus? You're right. Inside of a nucleus is chromosomes. Chromosomes are a single, highly organized, and structured piece of DNA. So inside of the egg, there is some yarn. The yarn is going to be two colors, so I'm going to do it as orange and then as red. You can pick any two colors you'd like as long as you've got two. The different colors represent the sections of DNA known as genes. Genes are the basic physical and functional unit of heredity that make up DNA. So next you're going to label the different parts. So I'm going to move back. You're going to label what the bag represents, what the egg represents, and what the yarn represents. I've already told you that the egg is the nucleus and that the yarn is the chromosomes or DNA. So if this is the nucleus and this is the DNA, what do you think the bag represents? You're going to be answering that on the next couple questions. What did the plastic bag represent? Type your response or record your audio. What did the plastic egg represent? Again, you're going to type your response or record your audio. What did the yarn represent? Type or record your audio. And then what is the chromosome made of? I discussed all of those while I was drawing, so if you didn't catch it the first time, you're going to want to go back and re-listen. Type or record. What do the different colors of yarn represent? Type or record your response. Here are some vocabulary words that are going to be related to our Explore. We've got sexual reproduction, which is a reproductive process involving two parents whose genetic material is combined to produce a new organism different from themselves. Genetic information, which is information encoded in the sequences of nucleotides in an individual's DNA. Chromosomes, a single highly organized and structured piece of DNA. Genes, the basic physical and functional unit of heredity made up of DNA. Genotype, the genetic makeup of an organism and is based on the different versions of the genes or alleles provided by each of the parents. Alleles, which are different versions of a gene. Phenotype, the physical appearance or expressed genetic traits of an organism. Next, we're going to be talking about dominant and recessive traits. Dominant traits show up in the offspring whenever present and are represented by the capital letter in genetic charts. Dominant traits would be present in the following examples using the letter X: uppercase X, and uppercase lowercase x. Recessive traits show up only if the dominant traits are absent and are represented by a lowercase letter. Recessive traits would be present in the following examples using the letter X, lowercase. Next, we're going to be creating our own monster. So here we can see that we have monster dad and monster mom. They each have different genetic traits. Some things we can notice is they've got horns, different colored eyes, different tails, different number of whiskers, and their feet are slightly different. What we are going to be doing is determining their genotype, if they have dominant or recessive traits, and then their phenotype. Remember that phenotype is that physical appearance. When it comes to our horn, we've got three different choices. For your genotype, you could do capital, capital. You could do capital, lowercase, or you could do lowercase. You pick which one you want to do. You're going to repeat this for whiskers, fangs, claws, tail, fur, eyebrows, nose, and I can't see what the bottom one is. Whatever is below. So I'm going to pause. I would like you to pause too, and then I want you to fill in the genotypes. You can choose to do uppercase. You could do uppercase, lowercase. You could do lowercase. It does not matter which one you pick. You just need to fill in all the boxes. Let's pause and fill in. Now you can see that I've got all of my genotype boxes filled in. Some of mine are uppercase, some of mine are lowercase, and some of mine are uppercase, lowercase. Notice that with all of them where it's an uppercase, then a lowercase, I put the uppercase letter first. Our next step is to determine if a trait is dominant or recessive. We know that a trait is dominant if it has an uppercase letter. And we know it is recessive if we see no uppercase letters. So for example, for my first one, I have it dominant. You could just put the letter D for dominant and the letter R for recessive, or you can type it out. I do want to point out this really cool trick right here. If you click, it'll duplicate. So I've got many dominants, so I'm going to duplicate that a couple of times, and I'm going to drag and drop. Pause here, unpause when your middle column is filled in. Now we're on to the last column, our phenotype. Based on the genotype, we're going to have a phenotype. So for example, for horns, our phenotype If it is dominant, is one horn. If it is recessive, it is two horns. So I'm going to use my text tool again. Mine's dominant, so I'm going to have one horn. Listen very closely because I'm going to be going through this quickly. For whiskers, if it is dominant, you're going to have three whiskers. If it is recessive, you're going to have two whiskers. For fangs, if it is dominant, you're going to have short fangs. If it is recessive, you're going to have long fangs. For claws, if it is dominant, you're going to have four claws. If it is dominant, you're going to have three claws. If it is recessive, you're going to have four claws. Sorry, I misspoke. Let me say that again. If it is dominant, you're going to have three claws. If it is recessive, you're going to have four claws. For tail, if it is dominant, you're going to have a short tail. If it is recessive, you're going to have a long tail. For fur, if it is dominant, you're going to have brown fur. If it is recessive, you're going to have gray fur. Two more to go. For eyebrows, if it is dominant, you're going to have smooth eyebrows. If it is recessive, you're going to have spiky eyebrows. Lastly, for a nose, if it is dominant, you're going to have a triangle nose. If it is recessive, you're going to have an oval nose. Now, what I would recommend you do is to take a picture of your screen. So, screenshot your screen or take a picture on your phone or write this stuff down because our next step is we're going to have to draw this. So, I'm going to take a picture on my phone so that I don't forget what my phenotypes are. Here is the key to the monster genes. Remember, you can go back and forth if you prefer to do that. Next, you're going to draw your baby monster. So, for example, I'm going to draw my monster with one horn, two whiskers, short fangs, four claws, short tail, brown fur, a smooth eyebrows, and an oval nose. Take a moment here to pause and draw your monster. Once your monster is done, you're going to be answering some questions. How many dominant traits does your monster have? My monster had 5 dominant traits. So I would answer 5 dominant traits, or I would record myself. How many recessive traits does your monster have? My monster had 3 recessive traits. So I would put 3, or I would record myself saying 3. How many different alleles for tails are present? So when we went through that, how many choices did we have for tails? Were there 4 tail options? Were there 5 tail options? Only 1 tail option? How many different tail options did we have? You can type it or record. Is your monster exactly like the mom or dad monster? So does your monster look exactly like one of these? Yes, no, type or record yourself. And that is it. I hope you had fun creating your monster with me.